Hello, today I'm going to be having an oil painting session. Paul Rubens just recently sent me this beautiful box of jumbo oil pastels. So it's a lovely sturdy box with like a magnetic closure. And there are some individually packaged giant oil sticks, and these are from their Haiya Oil Pastel range. So I'll get them out and have a play with them. Paul Rubens have come up with two of these sets, set A and B, and this is the B set. And on the side you've got the name, the number, pigment information, opacity rating, and light fast stars. I used to have a couple of Paul Rubens's older sets of oil pastels, and I did quite like those. But then when they came out with these Haiya oil pastels, I really loved these, and overall I'd say that they've become my favourite oil pastels. So just to show you a size comparison, I've got kind of rubbery caps in the end. Oh, that's the equivalent colour, moss green. In a minute actually, I'll just swatch some of these side by side and see if they are the exact same colours. I'll just find one that I haven't used very much. Okay, this one is still pretty much full length. So that's the size difference. I'll get all these out now and just swatch them out and do a colour comparison. Realistically speaking, I probably won't keep them in the tubes, even though they'll end up getting quite messy and making the box quite messy, because I find I enjoy things more and use them more when they're easily accessible. So this first one is gold yellow. It's not a particularly warm day today, so the oil pastels are on the stiffer side. And then this is my gold yellow. So they feel about the same and look the same. Let's try the others out. So the jumbo ones feel pretty similar to the smaller ones, as you might expect, and the colours are very close. A couple were slightly different, so I don't know if that's just batch inconsistencies. Like the bright yellow was definitely a slightly different hue, and the raw sienna was a little bit different, but very slight though, and almost not worth mentioning. I want to do a picture with them now, and having them this size will definitely make it a lot easier to cover a large space. While wondering what to draw though, I'm realising that these aren't colours that I use very often. The main one that I use regularly is the moss green. I really like this one. So I'm definitely going to have to use some of my smaller Haiya oil pastels to supplement the colours. This got me to thinking though, if an oil pastel company asked me to put together a set of 12, which 12 I'd choose? And I got way too excited about this question. So I'll just show you quickly which my 12 favourite colours of oil pastels are. So I definitely have to have white. And there is a white in set A of the jumbo oil pastels. This is bearing in mind that I mainly do landscapes, of course. So this is Titanium Buff. I like this luminous yellow colour, which is a very strange name because it's not really very luminous yellow. And then my favourite blue for skies. This is the pale blue. This Prussian blue is really, really useful because it's just so dark. This is also a really nice blue. This is the blue green. I also like this Celadon green, a bit more turquoisey. And then for the greens, I like this phthalo green light. Although the olive green is also quite a good one. In fact, I probably picked this one because this is more opaque than the phthalo green light. And there's my moss green that I like. I like this light grey. It's useful. Oops, making that too green. It's useful in skies and seas. Then earth brown is a pretty good colour. And I'd have to include black. And one extra one which I also really like is this reddish brown grey. Just a really warm mid-grey. So probably no surprises there, a very landscapey palette. But that would be my dream set of jumbo oil pastels, I think. Here's my little motley collection of them. So to do a picture, I've got out my Sennelier Oil Pastel pad. And this is great because it's got these glassine sheets in between the pages. So I'll go and find some kind of reference picture now which uses more of the brighter colours. So I was looking through this gouache book by Viktorija Semjonova. I'll link to it down below, and I really like this fruit bowl picture. The pieces of fruit are created by cutting out some really textured looking gouache painted backgrounds and then used in a collage. The jumbo oil pastels were super fun to use in this way. I kept building them up and then blending them with foam wedges. Then also, because I've got lots of oil pastel to work with, I thought I'd try out using them with a palette knife. It's definitely something that you could do, but I didn't enjoy it as much as just scribbling with them straight onto the paper, so I went back to that method afterwards. I do really like the consistent creamy nature of the Haiya Oil Pastels. There's very little variation from colour to colour, and most of them are very opaque. They're at the softest end of the oil pastel spectrum alongside Sennelier's, and I do really like that they've got a much more consistent texture than the Sennelier's. A downside to the Haiyas though, compared to the Sennelier's, are that when you blend them, they're a little bit more murky looking. When you blend the Sennelier's, the colours keep their clarity better. I demonstrate this in a previous video which I made, and I'll link to that down below. So I keep on making rough fruit shapes, which I will cut out with scissors at a later point. I'll speed through the rest of the process now. Paul Rubens Haiya Oil Pastels aren't available as open stock, but they do sell some of the colours in these 8 packs, so I picked up the white, as that's the colour I get through the quickest. I use quite a bit of white now on the fruit bowl. The fruit bowl in the book has painted on lines, and I quite like that look, so here I'm using some Gamsol to dissolve this blue patch of oil pastel which I scribbled down and use it like paint. I don't get a super concentrated look because I'm painting over the white oil pastel, but I don't mind that. Here I'm just doing another white patch of oil pastel and blending it in, just to show that you can get quite good lines if you go over with the blue oil pastel. It's just not quite the look I was going for. I wanted the painterly look. And then I cut everything out, which is a bit of a messy job, but also enormous fun. I decided that the oil pastel was going to be too sticky to work with whilst gluing the pieces down, and so I give them all a coating of oil pastel fixative by Sennelier. Once the fixative has dried, I use Zig two-way glue pen on the backs. This dries quickly but needs quite firm pressure for the first couple of moments, so I use printer paper on top of the pieces so I can push them really firmly. The Sennelier Oil Pastel fixative works pretty well, but there were a couple of spots, one on the lemon and one on the apple, where it hadn't dried fully, and so later on you see me touching up those areas, because the oil pastel had come off in them. So here's my bright and cheery bowl of fruit. It's an incredibly dull day here and the camera's not picking up all of the nice textures that are going on. I definitely enjoyed working with the jumbo Haiya Oil Pastels though. They're a really nice size. But I would say that you need to make sure they're colours that you want to use on a large scale. I would probably prefer landscape colours, as I said, and would find less use for these bright colours. As always, thanks ever so much for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed seeing these in use. Bye!